So after taking over 6,000 sales calls and selling well over, 4 to 5 million on the phone, here are a couple things to avoid on a sales call. I've tried so many different techniques, scripts. You've seen my video if you haven't on my, sales script that we built, our pitch deck, all that stuff. Like you've seen those videos if you've been watching me for a while. If you have not, you can just go find it, or I'll put it up in one of these card thingies on the corner of the screen. So the biggest things to avoid are, number one is like your confidence level and tonality. Okay. And I'm not saying to avoid it. I'm going to kind of go over each factor. So your confidence and tonality, you need to be confident, but not overbearing. So what I mean by that is you might have this, prospect on the phone and you're talking about things that you're the one leading the conversation. You have to be the leader in the sales call. You just can't let the prospect talk too much in the beginning. You have to control it. You have to frame it. You have to make sure that this is the right fit. Whenever I start a sales call, I always say, hey, listen, if all the boxes check today, are you willing to get started? Are you going to hang up on me? Are you going to ghost me? If we get to that point where you're making your payment, are you going to end the call and not finish, finish your payment? Like, are you going to do that to me? And you kind of answer that objection right off the rip, because then when you get to the end of the call, then it's an easy transition to the close. Also, things you could add that, like, hey, do you need to talk to your wife or partner before moving forward with anything? And if so, are you going to use it at the end if all the boxes check? Something like that, where if you see their questions that they're answering in their calendar or their, like their type form or their, questionnaire that signify something, then you can call it out in the beginning. So you lead the conversation, you lead the objection handling. Okay, you are now in control. Tonality too. Like right now, the way I'm sitting, it's not the best because I'm slouched. It's just not, I'm obviously slouching because it's a YouTube video. This is not a sales call. So, tonality is good. You also don't want to stutter a lot. That'd be number two. But as far as the confidence and tonality, you can't attach yourself to the sale. You have to detach yourself from the money, from the sale, from the close, because not everybody's going to fit your, not everyone that you talk to is going to be a closed lead or a viable closed lead. There might be things that get in the way that don't make them a qualified prospect anymore that they start talking to you about. So yeah, and you can call those things out in the beginning of the call as well. So the second thing too is the stuttering and not knowing the path, right? A lot of people go on all these different tangents on a sales call. And I don't mean stuttering as like, I mean, if you're stuttering, but you don't know where to take the conversation next, then you look unprofessional. Then you look like you're scatterbrained, and the prospect can tell that you're not professional enough to handle the sales call. It means that you haven't taken enough sales calls. You're not seasoned. You have to really sit there and think for a couple of seconds where the conversation should go next. And the way that I always think about that is like anything that they've mentioned up to this point that that you could provide to them. So if I'm talking to a prospect about their leads and I'm asking them, hey, what's the business currently doing? How many book calls are you getting? And they say, hey, I'm getting 2 booked calls a day. I'll wait. I'll let that sit. And then, once he's done, I'll say, hey, listen, I remember you talking about you getting 2 book calls a day. If you're making X amount a month, how much do you want to be making? Okay, cool. Now we're getting into the numbers game. And then you can point that out. You say, listen, I want to make calculated decisions, not emotional ones. Can we both agree on that? And then you take them into the whole thing of, well, if you get 5 book calls a day and you're getting 2, you're going to make 250% more revenue. Does that make sense? Yeah, but they might give you an objection of like, but you told me that you're confident enough to close if I got you leads. And that's where you got to take the conversation. You have to put them in the place where they're saying yes to a lot of things. So that's like what I mean by the stuttering in the pathway of the conversation, which is number 2. Okay. Hope you guys can hear me. They're doing landscaping over here. But number 3. So the third thing to avoid on a sales call is mentioning the price too soon, right? And I know a lot of people like to say, well, if the prospect doesn't like the price, then they're not, they're not going to move forward with the conversation. You have to bring value. You have to hit infatuations. You have to hit pain points in order for them to actually want to get to the price. And there's actually 2 things that I've tried that have worked very well. So usually what you can do is you will then say the full price. So for example, right, if you do a 3-month contract and you're charging $2,000 a month, you tell them it's $6,000. And the reason why is because they're going to look at the big number and then you say, but wait, it's not $6,000 now. You take that price objection of like, oh, this is too much. Now you can get them to the place of like, oh, I pay every month. Oh, okay. So it's not $6,000 today. And now you're making it go from high low. So now they're okay with the price. Now you gave them a pain point. You gave them an option of flexibility to move forward. I think a lot of people are trying to mention the price too early in a sales call because they want to know if the prospect's like got enough money, got enough coin to make the actual decision. And I just think that is very, very false. Also, number 4 thing to avoid on a sales call, and this is going to be the last one. The 4th thing that I see people do is they let the prospect walk over them at the end. They let them get off the call and they depend on a 2-call close. They depend on a follow-up. And I agree, like, follow-ups are cool. You know, we make a good amount of sales from follow-up, but it's not enough as a time money perspective to really justify. You need to really get to the point where your script is ready for a 1-call close. I see this all the time. People try to do 2-call closes, you know, and then while the 2-call close is happening, that person between those 2 calls is shopping. They're finding other options. People have options. There's the internet. Same thing with you know, women and men. Men try to go after one girl only, and then when it doesn't work out, they're mad because they don't have any other options. Talking to multiple women is going to make it easier for you to make a decision because now you're not mad about the one person leaving you. You have other viable options. Okay, so that's really important to understand. So I hope these 4 things cleared up, you know, kind of the things to avoid on a sales call. If you haven't checked out my other video about my sales script and pitch deck, you can go do that. It's on my channel. I appreciate you guys stopping by, and I will see you guys in tomorrow's video. Subscribe, please. Thank you.